And today we're talking on peace in education. And before we start, I would just like to thank Ms. Latha Reddy, who helped organize this panel. And we're very grateful to her help, Latha Reddy and Dr. Reddy. And so we will begin without any further ado. Your Holiness, do you want to have some initial remarks about education and peace?
Education, I think among thousands different sort of mammals, we human beings, I think so far we notice only human being. In the future, I don't know, some other planet may have some intelligent people. But at least on this planet, we human beings, we have this very smart brain. So that naturally, you see, create a lot of curiosity and willingness or desire to investigate, thinking further. So that's why today education developed. So generally, I believe the very purpose of education is reduce gap, appearance, and reality. So therefore, I believe the one purpose of education is to develop realistic approach. Everyone, even animal, want sort of happy life, or another word, the life, peaceful life without disturbances. So that's everybody's goal. So everybody's seeking that. But then our approach should be realistic. So approach on the basis of appearances sometimes become unrealistic because of the gap, appearance and reality. So then I think when in the European continent, I think in India, and also I think Egyptian civilization and Chinese civilization, I think education, I don't know, I think like in Europe also, originally those people who, what's today, religious people or monastic sort of member, the better education. So education goes along with religious sort of teaching. Then in Europe, I was told, I remember one thing, in Bologna, in Italy, on Bologna University, I was told 1,000-year-old institution. So when the education institution developed separately from monastery, I think that really, helped, immensely progress in the education. Now, since the very purpose of education is to bring our goal, so now here, I think one thing quite clear. In ancient time, the moral ethics taken care by church. and I think some extent, family values. So the newly developed separate education institution, now their only sort of concern is information or the education knowledge. In other words, I feel brain development, the development of warm-heartedness, that part taken care by religious institution. Now in the society, as I briefly mentioned, the few thousand years, you see people, you see, whenever we find some difficulties, whenever we want something, we just rely on prayer. Then last about 200 years, science and technology developed. That immediately bring a certain thing which we want. And also with help of science, you see, many diseases reduce. So people naturally sort of more trust technology rather than just prayer. So therefore, the last about 200 years, I think people eventually pay more attention about science and technology and the material development. And also, I think people, when the material facility poor, their immediate concern is their stomach, their physical comfort. So we putting more effort about material development. I think still, in some part of the world, they still economically very poor. Even I think this country, United States, richest country, still some areas, you see, the poor families. I heard many years ago, and also yesterday when we discussed these things. So in any way, these people from the economically poor sort of condition, their immediate sort of concern is their physical well-being. Then the society generally more developed and affluent society, material facility, everything there. But then, from their own experience, now material value, material facility alone will not bring inner peace. Obviously, more money, more desire, more attachment. And because of too much attachment about money, corruptions, exploitations, bullying, cheating, all these things happen. Of course, bullying, cheating, exploitation will not bring inner peace. Just some temporary satisfaction out of some money. So then, other hand, in the science itself, they gradually, I think the field of research now become deeper. And when you see the sort of scientific sort of research about brain, about particle of the neurons or the sort of brain, they eventually another sort of subject we call emotion, mind. Although invisible, you cannot measure. You cannot observe by third person way. But still, very, very important sort of thing, factor. So then, gradually, in modern science, now showing interest about mind, about emotion, and how to tackle emotion. I think two fields. One, those richer family, materially, everything there, but they, through their own experience, something lacking. The other side, science. Now begin feel or interest about mind, about consciousness, or emotion. So now, and also then another, I think, factor, education, existing education sort of system, mainly, you see, the focusing, the knowledge, the development of the brain, not much sort of focusing about moral ethics. That side, I think, take for granted, that kind of situation. Now, a society where generally education is good, but a lot of problems, mental problem. Due to mental problem, due to certain lacking in mental state, too much stress, too much frustration, that transform sort of what's the hopelessness or some kind of sort of what's the desperate, that transform violence. So therefore, now education, the institution, should be or should carry some research work. The modern education, taking care about brain development, must go with the education about warm-heartedness. So the subject, compassion or forgiveness, these things, some people have the impression these are the religious matter, religious concept. In secular education, these are not much relevant. I think that is totally wrong. All major religious tradition, of course, you see, emphasis, importance of practice of love and compassion, forgiveness, these things. But compassion, love, compassion, these things actually separate. These are basically biological factor. When we born, I think first our experience is mother's affection. Where that affection there, the child happy, and physical development, mental development, then properly develop. Or abandoned child, or a child lacking mother's affection. And physical development also then suffer, mentally also. Then worst thing is whole rest of life, that person remain, I think, some kind of cold and difficult to show genuine, compassionate attitude towards other. Because of during most important, crucial period, there's a lack of affection, and therefore fear, suspicion, distrust. So that experience then remain the rest of their life. So therefore, the affection or compassion itself, I think mainly biological factor, because for survival we need these things. The mother sort of physical sort of, also the action, taking care about the child. There, in mental level, there must be tremendous sort of will, no matter how difficult it is, even I think dirty, is a willingness to take care. When the, what's the name? When I born, in our village, so of course, mother, a little bit sort of difficult pains and these things. Then my eldest sister, is taking care of me. So my sister told me, as soon as I born, you see, that child very much sort of hungry. And our village, we have the tradition, give water, shingasari. There's one sort of what's the plant, very sweet. So usually, you see, that sweet sort of plant is put in that water. So that's our tradition. So I sucking. Then my sister, you see, hold. Then things come from there. That's, I think, first my act of this life. Sucking that water, sweet water, because of that, too much, and then immediately go out. So in any way, you see, of course, dirty, a little bit dirty, but you see, so much affection, so much sort of concern, because of the survival of that child. So that willingness, that energy must have motivated some emotion. That is the affection. So the biological sort of, because of the thing, for survival, we need that kind of sort of affection. So biologically, develop that. So there's nothing to do with religion. Later, of course, religious sort of tradition, religious practice, teachings, immense help to further develop these things. So now, I think in the secular education system, this very fit. Nothing to do with the religion. Religion comes later, or different, so that, because of different approach. So I think, I hope, I often use it telling in Europe or in India, in many places, I think now time comes, we need more research work, how to introduce moral ethics without touching religion, secular moral ethics. That's in India. That is tradition, 1,000 years, that tradition there. So I think we can learn something from Indian sort of example. So I hope eventually, you see, concerned people should take more serious sort of research work, and then as a sort of experiment, one school carry these sort of curriculum, and then see after 5 years what effect. If something's satisfied, good, then can extend 10 schools, 100 schools, and then eventually a different state, I think adopt to certain things. Then we'll see. Then finally, you see, my dream is even United Nations, you see, make some kind of resolution, the worldwide sort of universal education system. Maybe good. So, that's all.
Thank you, Your Holiness. That's a very worthy dream. Everyone here is working toward that. So now we will begin with our panelists, and we'll turn first to Pedro Noguera. This is Pedro Noguera, who's a professor of education at NYU, and has done a lot of work here in Newark. And Pedro.
Good morning. And first, let me say what an honor it is to share the stage with His Holiness and with all the other distinguished panelists, and have a chance to talk about these connections between education and peace, and to say how important it is that we're doing this in Newark, New Jersey, because this is a city that needs peace, that is crying out for peace, that is, despite the heroic efforts of our Mayor Cory A, is still experiencing real challenges in this area. And so clearly education has to be part of the effort to create a more peaceful and prosperous and loving city. And I think that, because I've been working now in schools in Newark for about 2.5 years, and I've come to understand some of the challenges up close, the challenges experienced by the children and their families especially, and have grown aware of the suffering that is so present in this community. And it makes it clear that the kind of education that's needed has to really be thought through. Because what we know is that education by itself does not necessarily lead to peace or to nonviolence. I read a quote here from a girl, Haim Guinot, who was a Holocaust survivor. And she writes, she says, "I am a survivor of a concentration camp. My eyes saw what no other person should witness. Gas chambers built by learned engineers, children poisoned by educated physicians, infants killed by trained nurses, women and babies shot and burned by high school and college graduates. I am suspicious of education. My request is help your students to become more human. Your efforts must never produce learned monsters, skilled psychopaths, or educated Eichmanns. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are important only if they serve to make our children more human." I offer that because we are, in this country especially, grappling with how to educate a greater number of children, but we often don't think nearly enough about the purpose of education and whether or not the education we provide prepares them to live and how to live in the world. And I was on a panel here in Newark about a year ago at the museum. It was to honor the 100th anniversary, or maybe 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. And we took questions from the audience. And one question completely stumped me and the other panelists. And it was a young woman who said, "Why are there so many young black people in Newark who are mentally ill and homeless?" And as I thought about the question, it spoke volumes to the ways in which we lack a support system for young people, and that young people are allowed to try to make their way in a world because they don't have the proper guidance and education that prepares them for life. So it made me think more about what kind of education. The German philosopher Bertolt Brecht warns us that education could be used to oppress or to liberate. And we need to figure out how do we make sure that the education we provide does in fact lead to open minds, to people who can think critically about the world around them, and to people who can be creative and contribute to a better world in which to live. That, to me, requires us to ground our education, as you said, in secular human values, moral values, but not dogma, not religion. And I'm sorry if I offend those who are religious, but today, I would say religion is killing us. Some of the most violent people in the world are very religious. And what we need of is perhaps less religion and more morality, more humanity, and an education that provides that kind of foundation. I want to read a quote here from Gandhi, who says that the roots of violence are wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, politics without principles. I believe that the education we provide to young people must be grounded in these kinds of values. I believe that that's the only education that would not only save Newark, but save the world. I'll close with this story. I was asked to go to a school in Oakland, California, to work with some young people who were giving trouble. And after a few minutes in this conversation with these young people, it became clear that all of them were selling drugs. And I got into a debate with them about whether or not it was right or wrong to sell drugs, to support themselves, and I was losing. Because every argument I presented them with, they countered with the logic of the marketplace. That is, they were making money. They were supporting themselves. They said, this is how capitalism works. And then finally I said to one, I said, well, would you sell drugs to your sister? And he looked at me and he said, no. I said, why not? He said, because it's poison. And then I said, well, would you sell drugs to your friend's sister? And he looked, he said, yes. I said, why? He said, because it's a business. And if I didn't do it, someone else would. And I turned to his friend and I said, how do you feel about the fact that he said he would not sell drugs to his sister, but he would sell them to yours? And he said, well, then he's not my friend. And that suddenly opened up a very different conversation among these young people about their responsibility to each other, that the logic of the market could not allow. Because in the marketplace, violence is permitted. In the marketplace, the powerful dominate the weak. And that's why the education we provide has to be grounded in those values and has to be grounded in a sense of hope. Because if there's no hope there, there's no way to inspire our young people to believe that a better life, a better world is possible.
Thank you, Pedro. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Pedro. Perhaps in interest of time, we will move along and do a couple more before we have a conversation. And turn to Kathi Lloyd, our youth representative from Essex County College. Your turn.
I would just like to say good morning to everyone and to His Holiness and the panelists. It's just a privilege to be able to sit up here with you guys today and share my opinions about how we can improve peace and education in the city of Newark. Peace and education is an interesting topic to speak of today, at a time where things are changing in Newark involving education. Unfortunately, with all the changes happening, students seem to fall to the wayside, and they feel like they have no voice in their own education. No matter how many protests and walkouts they feel as though they have to comply with the rules because they are just as such, the rules. For high school students in this district, it becomes harder because they already feel like they have no voice because decisions are being made with no one asking for their opinion or even the community's opinion. Then on top of that, they are failing. And so many feel like, what's the point of wasting our time at school? This is a mindset of many high school students in the city. Sadly, some of them feel like society wants them to fail anyway, and schools have low expectations. We have to make school more appealing to our students by empowering them and making them able to change what they don't like. School should be about learning, but I know some of my peers went to school every day just for an after-school activity. We have to empower students to make them want to learn. We need to let them know that we believe in them and they can succeed. Students lose interest in school when they feel they have no power and they feel that no one cares about them. Newark is going through so many changes with education. Schools are closing because of the declining enrollment rate. Co-locations between schools are going to occur, which are not favored for everyone in the community. And then we also have the Global Village School Zone, which brings a positive change to the central ward of Newark, bringing the community and schools together. Many of these changes, unfortunately, are tearing the community apart. There are two groups of parents, charter and public, that seem to be at war with each other. These changes to education don't seem to be creating peace at all. With the few excelling schools that we have here in the city, parents are fighting to get their children in the best public schools, which is sad because all of our schools should be great, and parents should have more options. Parents should have more options, and they shouldn't have to compete for their children to be educated. We need to inform students on how things that are not helping them succeed can be changed. Students should know how to have their voices heard and who to hold accountable. If we did a survey right now in the Newark Public Schools, magnet and regular, I can guarantee you that more than half of the students don't know who the Newark Public School Board is. These are people who vote on policies that directly affect Newark Public School students. When students get upset that they can't go on trips, or that they have to wear uniforms, or that they don't have challenging classes or challenging curriculum, they don't even know with whom to be upset at. This is why students should be made aware of who school board members are and even allowed to vote in school board elections. It is most important for students to be aware of these things because they will be directly affected by decisions that the board makes. It is so important for students to feel empowered. An empowered student is a positive, proud student that takes advantage of their education. In high school, I was involved in some programs that made me feel empowered. I also led some demonstrations that made my peers feel empowered. In high school, I was involved in the Stand and Deliver program, which was a public speaking program that empowered and motivated youth to take the initiative, to get in front of their peers, and deliver a poem or a speech about peace. I also empowered other students in school by signing petitions, holding a week-long lunch strike, and also being one of the organizers of the citywide walkout that took place last April, all done with the help of a few of my peers. During these activities, students felt empowered. After, when the results were changed for the better, they felt even more empowered. Improving peace in education for students is not a difficult task. It is just one we have to be willing to complete. Completing this task can be as easy as involving them in things that directly affect them, such as the Newark Public School Board elections or decisions at their school. Don't just use students as a tool when you want to prove a point to the board. Inform them so that they can express their own opinion and get change. This means we have to provide students with the resources that will help them succeed. To help with peace in education, I am currently serving with the Mayor Cory Team Gateway at Burnett Street School here in Newark as a tutor with the I Have a Dream program. I am also going back to my high school, working with various clubs and mentoring students to help them be better than me and to achieve peace in their own education. We have to realize that the youth are the future, so you can stand off to the side and complain about how we're a lost generation, or you can jump into the trenches and help us be empowered and part of change. Because after all, you are our parents, our elders, our teachers, and our leaders, and we learn from you. Thank you.
Very good, Kathi. Thank you. Very good. Excellent. Things going on here. Okay, so thank you, Kathi. That's wonderful. And does anyone have anything they'd like to say to Kathi? Awesome. Briefly. Awesome. All right, great. Awesome is the right word.
I'd like to say to Kathi, thanks for representing students today and communicating to people the wonderful, bright students who are in this city.
Thank you. Absolutely. All right.